So up next, we have a project which I'm a big fan of. I'm a real big fan of, making development on Neo easier. And that's exactly what Alex here is doing with Neo 1. So give it up for Alex with Neo 1.
Hey, so I'm Alex. Thanks for the introduction. As he said, I'm actually the founder of NeoTracker, and I'm here to talk to you today about a new project that I've been working on called Neo 1. So just to give you a brief overview of what we're going to talk about today, I'm going to go over the problem space, what it is that we're trying to solve with Neo 1, and then talk about the solution, which is Neo 1, and finally talk more about the timeline. Yeah, so let's jump right into it. So the high-level overview of the problem space is that smart contract development on Neo is hard. We're in the very early days of Neo. There's not a lot of frameworks out there, not a lot of tools to really help you develop a smart contract as compared to other platforms like Ethereum. Some of the things that make this hard is painful setup. The initial setup is tedious and painful. For those of you that went to the workshop last night, and maybe you'll see today at the workshop, sometimes setting up, just getting your initial environment set up is hard. The cross-platform support is lacking. Some things work on Mac, some things work on Linux, some things work on Windows, and you kind of just have to try it out and see which platform it's actually going to work on. Projects like Neo Private Net, Docker, and Neo Python help solve part of this burden, but not entirely. So with Neo Private Net Docker, you can set up a private net with a Docker container, but that assumes knowledge of Docker. And it also has a few extra steps that are required to kind of get your wallet actually set up and link it to Neo GUI or however else you're going to develop your smart contract. Another pain point is the general software fragmentation. There's a myriad of tools. You have to learn how to use NeoPython, Docker, this Neo Private Net Docker, Neon.js, all sorts of different tools with all their own documentation in different parts of the web. And it's just hard to know what is the best thing to use at any point in the development lifecycle. Each smart contract has their own set of tools and build chain, kind of going back to this myriad of tools. Once you've decided I'm going to write my smart contract in Python, you have to go figure out, OK, I need to find NeoBoa and download that, and then compile, and then deploy that smart contract using NeoPython. But now if I want to go do C#, I have a whole different set of tools that I need to learn how to use and become fluent with to develop and deploy a smart contract. And another issue is that it's difficult to test if your smart contract will work with existing applications like NeoTracker and Neon. The general development flow today for people that are launching ICOs is they basically just reach out to me and say, hey, I put my thing on the testnet. Can you try to make sure it works with NeoTracker? And this is just not scalable and something that we want to help improve with Neo 1. Another issue is there's just a slow ramp up. There's a deep knowledge requirements for developing developing the Neo blockchain. You have to understand how the blockchain works, what an unspent transaction input-output is. If you're doing transfers, you have to understand how to build the correct invocation to actually have a smart contract be invoked. And just generally just requires a lot of knowledge. And this knowledge is furthermore fragmented across many different places across the web. I was talking with someone yesterday about this, and they were saying how when they were trying to get set up, they basically had to go look and read at all the documentation across the entire web to find the little slivers of important information they were looking for throughout, that's just kind of scattered throughout all the documentation. Another issue is that there's just some domain-specific knowledge required. This was alluded to a bit yesterday in the panel that Thomas and others were giving about smart contract development, that implementing smart contracts has numerous gotchas, right? It's probably better to describe it as saying you're using a Python-like syntax, because you have to understand what are the limitations of Python. You can't just write arbitrary Python code or C# code. So now that we kind of have an idea of like what the problem space is, what Neo 1 is trying to solve, let's talk about what Neo 1 is. So Neo 1 is the goal is to be the one SDK for developing Neo blockchain solutions easily, effectively, and quickly. And the way that we do that is by offering painless setup. The first step of that painless setup is network management. With a single command, you can have a private net set up locally that has a master wallet set up with plenty of Neo and gas to play with. And it all just happens on one command cross-platform. Oops, so it looks like I'm behind one. Another feature that we have with Neo 1 is this concept of simulations. Basically, simulations are a way to run a single command and have it either bootstrap an entire React app for you by setting up a private network, setting up the wallet with the Neo and gas, compiling and deploying a smart contract, copying a template over to like a React template or a tutorial template over into a new folder for you, and basically setting it in 5 minutes or less, honestly under about a minute, you'll basically have a hello world smart contract running with just one command. Another pillar of Neo 1 is to provide a delightful experience, right? We want to have smart contract development be as easy as possible. One of the things that you can do with Neo 1 is you can develop in C#, Python, or TypeScript, and using just the same tool chain, just the same set of commands, you can compile smart contracts in C#, Python, or TypeScript. Another pain point that was mentioned yesterday in the panel was about testing smart contracts. We also have a module for making it really easy to automatically unit test your smart contracts that works for all C#, Python, and TypeScript smart contracts. Effectively, what you do is you use the client APIs, you write unit tests like you would for any programming language, and you can verify that your smart contract is working as expected. Debugging. So we are also working on an integrated debugger experience so that you can set breakpoints in your code and debug your smart contracts just as you would normal programs. We also, if you're not a huge debugger fan and you just like using print statements to debug your smart contracts, we'll support that as well to make it really easy for you to invoke your smart contract and then see the output, your debugging output directly in your terminal. Another pillar is just really making smart contracts be human-friendly. So they are really designed, so we are working on a TypeScript compiler that will make it, developing smart contracts look and feel like programming a normal TypeScript program. You'll define a class with some public methods on it. Those public methods will just automatically become the functions of your smart contract, and it all just works as if you're writing a normal program. The client APIs themselves will be human-friendly as well. They provide a high-level set of APIs for things like transferring from an address to an address that abstracts away all of the underlying details of like what an unspent transaction input-output is, how a change address works. They also provide with deep integration with TypeScript so that your smart contract functions can just be invoked as if they're normal functions from the front end. You don't have to worry about generating a script that will invoke your smart contract with very Neo-specific knowledge. You just sort of invoke a function as you normally would, and behind the scenes, the magic of Neo 1 happens and invokes it automatically for you. Another feature is that we will be integrating directly with VS Code and Atom. So if you're not a huge command line interface fan, you can access all the power of Neo 1 directly from within your editor. We'll also have the debugger integrated as well. So it'll be truly just like a truly seamless experience where you can debug your smart contract code directly from your editor. And the last thing I wanted to mention is Neo 1 plugins. So the entire architecture of Neo 1 is designed around plugins, networks, wallets. They're all plugins. One thing that we are going to add in the future is a Neo Tracker plugin so that you can use a full instance of Neo Tracker pointed at your private network to debug your smart contracts, to investigate what's happening in your private network, all with one command directly from Neo 1. So the revolution starts here for smart contract development on Neo. And if you want to try it out, we have an early version available. It requires Node 8.9, just one command, npm install -g at neo1/CLI, and then run neo1 go to get started. So what's our timeline look like? So a lot of what we talked about today is aspirational. It's visionary. A lot of it is not quite implemented right now. In about 2 weeks, we will have a version 1 beta available that will deliver on the promise of, basically, if you're developing a decentralized app, all you have to do is write the smart contract code and your actual decentralized app code. And everything else in between that is a lot of tedious, painful, requires deep knowledge requirements will be handled automatically for you. This initial version will only work with the TypeScript compiler for that full experience. Later on, we will also expand it to Python and C#. Soon afterwards, and about 2 weeks after the beta, we will release version 1. The difference between version 1 and the beta is that while beta we would consider to be production ready, between different versions of the beta, we will potentially be making breaking API changes, just so you're aware, based on feedback from the community. Once version 1 is released, you can consider the APIs to be stable and is truly ready for production use, and you can be sure that upgrading between minor versions will not break your app. Beyond that is when we have sort of that base layer, that initial promise delivered to you, and beyond that is when we start adding more of the really nice features like the NeoTracker plugin, the integrated debugger, things like that, and we will prioritize basically based on feedback from the community on what features are most important. In the long term, we will have everything implemented, but if you have interest in a particular feature set, please come talk to us and let us know. And with that, I will close this out by saying that you can go to our website, neo1.io. Right now, it's just a splash page. We'll be refreshing it in a few days here. But if you're interested in Neo1, please follow us on Twitter. You can find the links at neo1.io. Join us on Discord. Give us a star on GitHub. Show your support. We'll be around here, probably around in the breakout room. We'll also be here during Dean's workshop in the afternoon. We have swag. If you want to grab a Neo1 t-shirt or stickers, come talk to us. We'll be in the breakout room during the workshop, and we'll also be in the overflow room directly after this talk and during lunch if you want to pick up a t-shirt or stickers. And finally, if you want to email us, just contact@neo1.io is a good way to get in direct contact, or Discord and Twitter, as I mentioned. And with that, I'll take any questions if anybody has any. I don't know if you want to just shout out or if they're going to bring a...
Any other plans for other language support?
Other language support. In terms of... So we don't currently have plans. So the deal with the languages is that... so I mentioned that the TypeScript support would be the first, sort of first-class language on Neo1, right? It gives the really full end-to-end experience. After that, we're probably going to work with Python because it's popular to bring it up to, have the feature set that we need it to have in order to have that first-class support. From there, it really depends on the community demand. Of course, we're an open source project, so if anybody wants to contribute languages, we're happy to have contributions be made. As I mentioned, it's a plugin-oriented architecture, so you don't even need to wait to have us approve changes. You can just add a new compiler, there's a well-defined interface. So as long as you know how to implement that interface, once you implement that interface, it'll just work with the rest of Neo1. You don't need any approval from anybody or anything like that.
Well, I wanted to know more about
The team, yeah. So I am. So I founded NeoTracker. I have a partner, Alex, who's over here. You can raise your hand. He will mostly be working on NeoTracker, but he's also been helping me with Neo1. But right now, it's just the two of us. And so on that note, if you are interested in joining us and helping, a great way to kind of get to know us and have us get to know you is to contribute on GitHub. We are hiring, but a good way for us to kind of get to know you is to contribute. So if there's any developers interested on products like this, working on Neo1 or working on NeoTracker, please get in contact, come contribute on GitHub. We'll also be, on that note, open sourcing NeoTracker soon. So if Neo1 is not your cup of tea, but NeoTracker is, you can also contribute there. And that's a great way to kind of get to know us and us to get to know you. I think that's good. All right. Thank you.